Welcome to a new video with Caesar, where mystery, excitement, and suspense await. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. In the shadows of Colombia's turbulent history, a name emerged. The name still evokes a mixture of fear and fascination. Born on December 1, 1949, in Rio Negro, Colombia, his story is one of ambition, ruthlessness, and ultimately, tragedy. Escobar's early life was a far cry from the extravagant lifestyle he would come to lead. He was born into poverty. He grew up in the slums of Medellin. Life was a constant struggle for his family. Despite their hardships, Escobar's mother instilled in him a strong will. She was a teacher. She believed in the power of education. But young Pablo had other aspirations. The streets of Medellin presented a different kind of education. It was an environment where survival often trumped morality. Even as a child, Escobar possessed a sharp mind and a natural charisma. These traits, which could have led him down a different path, were instead channeled into a life of crime. He began with petty theft. He craved a life beyond the slums. He wanted wealth and power, and he was willing to do whatever it took to achieve it. The streets of Medellin were Escobar's first classroom. He learned the art of deception. He mastered the language of violence. He started small, stealing tombstones and selling them to shady dealers. He later moved on to car theft. His ambition grew with each success. Escobar's ambition was matched by his ruthlessness. He was never afraid to use violence. He saw it as a necessary tool. It was a way to eliminate competition. It was a way to instill fear and command respect. His reputation grew alongside his criminal enterprise. The drug trade, particularly cocaine, was booming in Colombia. Escobar saw an opportunity. Cocaine offered a path to the wealth he craved. It was a risky business, but the potential rewards outweighed the dangers. Escobar dove headfirst into the world of drug trafficking. Escobar's entry into the cocaine trade was swift and strategic. He partnered with other criminals. They formed a powerful alliance. This alliance would later become known as the Medellin Cartel. Escobar quickly rose to prominence. He possessed a unique combination of business acumen and ruthlessness. He understood the importance of supply and demand. He established cocaine laboratories in the Colombian jungle. He secured smuggling routes to the United States. The demand for cocaine was exploding. Escobar was more than happy to meet that demand. He amassed a fortune beyond his wildest dreams. Escobar's influence extended beyond the criminal underworld. He infiltrated the government. He bribed officials. He threatened anyone who dared to oppose him. Escobar became the undisputed king of cocaine. He was one of the most powerful men in the world. At the height of his power, Pablo Escobar was a force to be reckoned with. He was one of the wealthiest men in the world. Forbes magazine listed him as a billionaire. His wealth was a testament to his ruthlessness and his control over the cocaine trade. He lived a life of extravagant luxury. He owned lavish estates. He had a private zoo. Escobar's wealth was built on a foundation of violence and intimidation. His motto was plata o plomo, silver or lead. He offered people a choice: accept his bribe or face his wrath. Those who chose the latter rarely lived to tell the tale. Escobar was responsible for the deaths of countless people. He was a ruthless dictator cloaked in the guise of a businessman. His brutality knew no bounds. He bombed a commercial airliner. He orchestrated the assassination of presidential candidates. He unleashed a wave of terror upon Colombia. He believed he was untouchable. He was a law unto himself. Section 5. The People's Patron. Escobar's complex philanthropy. Escobar's reign was not without its contradictions. He was a ruthless killer, but he was also a folk hero to many. He used his wealth to build schools and hospitals in impoverished neighborhoods. He handed out cash to the poor, earning the nickname Robin Hood. His philanthropy was a calculated move. It was a way to gain popular support and to deflect attention from his criminal activities. Escobar understood the power of image. He wanted to be seen as a man of the people, yet he was a master manipulator. His actions, however, spoke louder than his words. The blood on his hands could not be washed away by acts of charity. He was a complex figure, a man capable of great cruelty and surprising generosity. He was a product of his environment and a symbol of a corrupt system. Section 6. The walls close in. The Colombian government declares war. Escobar's reign of terror could not last forever. The Colombian government, under pressure from the United States, launched an all-out war against him. The country was caught in a bloody conflict. Escobar's cartel waged a campaign of violence and intimidation, and the government responded in kind. The streets of Medellin became a battleground, with innocent people caught in the crossfire. Escobar's power began to wane. He was still a formidable enemy, but he was on the defensive, fighting for his survival. One of the most horrific acts of violence committed by Escobar and his cartel was the bombing of Avianca Flight 203. The bombing, which killed all 110 people on board, was intended to assassinate a presidential candidate. The bombing sent shockwaves throughout Colombia and the world, demonstrating the lengths to which Escobar was willing to go to maintain his power. Section 7. A deal with the devil. Escobar's time in La Catedral. Facing mounting pressure, Escobar negotiated a deal with the Colombian government. He agreed to surrender and serve a 5-year sentence. The catch? He would build his own prison. La Catedral, as it was known, was more of a luxury hotel than a prison. Escobar continued to run his empire from within its walls, and the government turned a blind eye to his activities. They were content to have him contained, even if it was under his own terms. Escobar lived like a king in La Catedral. He had a jacuzzi, hosted lavish parties, and even continued to order killings. The illusion of imprisonment didn't last. The Colombian government, under pressure from the United States, decided to move Escobar to a real prison. Escobar, however, had other plans. He escaped from La Catedral and vanished into the Colombian countryside. Section 8. Prison break. Escobar escapes, reigniting the conflict. Escobar's escape from La Catedral was a humiliation for the Colombian government. It also marked a turning point in the conflict. The government, with the help of the United States, stepped up their efforts to capture him. A special police unit, known as the Search Block, was formed. They were tasked with hunting down Escobar. The manhunt for Escobar was relentless. The Search Block used every tool at their disposal. They tapped his phones. They offered rewards for information. They conducted raids on suspected hideouts. Escobar, however, was a master of evasion. He had a network of loyal supporters. He knew the streets of Medellin like the back of his hand. He was always one step ahead of his pursuers. The chase became a cat-and-mouse game. Escobar was determined to stay one step ahead. He knew the stakes were higher than ever. He was fighting for his life. Section 9. The final showdown. The manhunt for Escobar intensifies. As the manhunt intensified, Escobar became increasingly isolated. His inner circle began to shrink. He was betrayed by some of his closest allies. The pressure was taking its toll. Escobar, once a figure of immense power, was now a fugitive on the run. He was forced to move constantly. He lived in squalor. He was separated from his family. The fear of capture was constant. He knew that if he was caught, he would likely be killed. Escobar was living on borrowed time. Section 10. The Kingpin Falls, Escobar's demise, and the aftermath. On December 2, 1993, Pablo Escobar's reign of terror came to an end. He was tracked down to a middle-class neighborhood in Medellin. The details surrounding his death are still debated. Some say he was killed by the Search Block. Others claim he took his own life. Regardless of the circumstances, Escobar's death marked the end of an era. The Medellin cartel, once the most powerful criminal organization in the world, was dismantled. The violence that had plagued Colombia for years began to subside. Escobar's death was a victory for the Colombian government. It was also a victory for the countless people who had suffered under his reign. His death, however, did not erase the scars he had left on Colombia. The legacy of violence and corruption he left behind continues to haunt the country to this day. Section 11. Legacy of a Narco Escobar's enduring impact. Pablo Escobar's life and death continue to fascinate and horrify the world. He was a complex figure. He was a ruthless killer. He was also a shrewd businessman and a folk hero to some. His story is a cautionary tale about the seductive power of greed, the corrosive effects of violence, and the enduring allure of the anti-hero. Escobar's legacy is complex and contradictory. He left behind a trail of blood and destruction. He also left behind a legacy of social inequality and political instability. His story has been told and retold in countless books, films, and television shows. He is a figure who continues to loom large in popular culture. He is both reviled and romanticized. His image adorns t-shirts and murals. His life story is a source of endless fascination. He is a reminder that truth is often stranger than fiction. He is a reminder of the dark side of the American dream. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Thank you.